to notice somebody, like utterly notice somebody and pay attention to them is a kindness, and to see them just as wholly human and perfect. And I think to kind of honour that in little ways is the stuff of life. I wish I could do it every day, all day. You know, it feels really important to me. I guess that kind of speaks full circle to this idea that New York's a tough city and it's busy and it's a slog, and we keep our heads to the sidewalk all the time. And kindness means you notice somebody and you pay attention to them. It's sustaining. It feels so tremendously warm to me. I'm Cathy. I've lived in Brooklyn about 16 years. I am an Essex girl, which if you come from England is trashy. We just sometimes get to this stage where things feel super functional. So things get really crowded. It was my boyfriend's birthday. We just try and step away and go somewhere where we can sit across a table from each other and have a conversation and not have the distractions in the house. It just feels like a time to kind of be a family without the distractions of New York, which get really pressured. There's this restaurant right on in a harbour. It's kind of become this tradition that we, like in the middle of the afternoon, we'll just go there and have a glass of wine and sit in the sun and watch the boats, and my daughter loves it, she can run around. And so we were just having a glass of wine at, like 4 in the afternoon. A couple of tables away was this woman who I'd guess was in her 70s. She was alone. She just seemed incredibly dignified, and I felt really drawn to her and really touched by her. She was reading a book, and she kept turning the book and putting it face down on the table while she was eating, and just kind of turning her face up to the sun, and she was just kind of soaking it in, and I couldn't stop watching her. And I think my mum is a widow, and I utterly projected that story onto this woman. We called the waitress over and said, we'd like to pay for that woman's dinner. Please don't tell her who it was, just tell her we were admiring her. And then we left before she did, and that felt really important, that we didn't kind of stay and watch. I would want somebody to extend that kindness to my mum, so maybe it's kind of a kindness by proxy. I don't know, I have this weird thing where I just feel really drawn to people and I want to kind of honour them, something about them, and say thank you. So we just left and we had this magic day and this lovely dinner, and that's the story.
You sit across a table from your boyfriend, whom you've stolen to this restaurant in the remote land of Baltimore to celebrate his 34th birthday. To sit beside him and recall the simple ways you first learned to love his jawline, or the way he grips the neck of a guitar, or talks to you over his shoulder over the rush of dishwater, all free from the slog and grit of New York City. Its squawking taxis and its oozing pigeon shit. And why Baltimore, people ask, with its whatever Baltimore had. And the answer is simple. It reminds you of a version of your love that makes you proud. Your daughter prancing among the boats, your man giggling in the sun and happy, so why not return here to toast another year and raise a glass high noon to praise this, the stuff of life. But today another life enters this simple tradition. An elderly woman perched at a table of her own adjacent yours, sun buttering her entire table in yellow light. She is elegant for elegance' sake. She is not waiting for a companion to stumble in from outside, nor checking her watch, nor sifting through meaningless emails beneath the tablecloth. She is alone. She's content. Majestic, even. Between sips of Chardonnay, her open novel spine up on the table, she angles her head just so toward the sun and lets warmth wash over her face through the window. And the longer you take her in from the corner of your eye and whisper to your man whose own graceful aging you're in fact here to celebrate, the more you realize who it is you're watching. whose familiar story of your own you are conjuring up through her quiet dignity and bone-thin fingers, the touch of the wine glass to her frail lips, and confident smile to no one in particular. Your mother was a widow, and it has always been a chore to shoo her away from creeping into the faces of strangers, but never more than now. And you're not even trying today. In fact, you're open as a Catskill sky for it all. Hung, heart flung on its hinges on this, the day when we work harder on other days to find worth in this growing older, adding another tree ring to the trunk. And so you call your waiter over quietly and ask to pay for her meal before you silently dip out the back, this stranger whose life you cannot separate from your own. But let's be clear. This is not your mother. And you not obligated to see her as such, but you are trying because you know what it feels like to be seen, given the benefit of every doubt in the world. And who knew it would be this simple tradition, searching for the people you love in the faces of strangers that would rival the old one. This soft smile at a man in the frozen food section because you're thinking about a friend whose bearded dimple he wears. A thank you to a stranger at a bar in a fishing village whose inky thumbs flicking through the Times reminds you of your brother. Heartbreak you know so well, you can't help but say its name in the form of a $20 bill when you pass it on the floor of the Atlantic Center station. And this, the simple act of striving to see the people you love in the eyes of those you've never met. This, the courage to give without praise. This, without expectation of anything back. This, the stuff of life.